As a preschooler, I dreamt of what I asked Santa for. I loved visiting jolly old Nick. I was confident I could hear him on the roof when he was landing, and I could imagine him chimneying down our chimney to bring me my presents. And then I grew up. I was 5. And my big sister wanted me to be streetwise. So she told me, you know, kid, there's no such thing as Santa Claus. Mom and Dad made them all up. I can't even begin to tell you how surprised I was. I was flabbergasted. My mom took me to see Santa, not knowing that I knew he was a fraud. As I inched my way up the line, I started to piece together all of the lies. My parents' devious manipulation, specifically my mom, asking me what I asked Santa for, secretively buying it and hiding it, and then squealing in delight on Christmas Day that Santa had arrived. My mom was part of a vast conspiracy of Santa, society, and the capitalistic toy manufacturing industrial complex designed to deceive innocent children. Oh, the betrayal of it all. But not this year. I was 5 and wise beyond my years. When it was my turn to talk to Santa, I could see his dark sideburns peeking out under his white beard. I knew that this fat man would never fit down our chimney. I had it with those lies. I screamed, "Fake! Fake! He's a fake! Santa's a fake! It's all a big lie!" My mom couldn't get me out of there fast enough. At that time, I vowed to my 5-year-old self that I would never lie to my children. Now fast forward 20 plus years. I meet this terrific man, Jeffrey, who is a bit of a kid himself. He's the kind of man who would do somersaults with the kids at a company picnic. Children loved him and they would climb on his back for ponyback rides. I knew he would make a great dad. We got married and were ecstatic when we had a son. We called him Little Jeff. Despite my vow, I began to lie as a parent. I started with lies that were for Little Jeff's own good or that would make him feel good. For example, I knew Coca-Cola was full of sugar and would rot his teeth. But how do you explain to a 3-year-old when his friends drink Coke? So I said, you can drink all the Coca-Cola you want once you have decided you are tall enough. Well, he never drank Coke, and he's now 6 foot 1 inch. At age 4, when the Northwestern earthquake shook our house, I held little Jeff tightly and said, "You're safe, Mommy's holding you," knowing I couldn't stop the ceiling from falling on us. The following year, when the ball dropped at midnight in New York Square on our TV, little Jeff assumed it was midnight in LA. The next day, he enjoyed his bragging rights at preschool that he got to stay up until midnight. It was a lie of omission on my part. So I was entering a slippery slope. I had become a lying parent, but I kept rationalizing it. These were good lies that protected my child or made him happy. The Santa situation, though, was more complicated. My husband, Jeffrey, shared his wonderful childhood memories of Santa, and I love the photos of Jeffrey with his 4 siblings hugging Santa. He went to great lengths to preserve Santa for little Jeff. I was reluctant at first, but decided not to be an obstructionist. When little Jeff was 4 months old, I was shocked that Jeffrey bought a dozen rolls of Santa wrapping paper that would last 20 years. He explained that all Santa gifts had to have the same Santa paper. I never thought of that, but it made sense. Jeffrey asked me to bake him his favorite cookies. He then took a bite out of each one and wrote a message, "Ho, ho, ho, love Santa." I became a participant in the lie and suggested he rewrite the note in his non-dominant hand so little Jeff would not recognize his message. As time passed, I became more and more of a co-conspirator, making sure that little Jeff's Santa wish list came true. Once I drove 44 miles in rush hour traffic to buy the last Thunderbirds base station in the greater Los Angeles area. I was now 100% in and having lots of fun. I mean, I couldn't resist the joy and warm, fuzzy feelings it brought Jeffrey, little Jeff, and me. It was all cute, charming, and delightful. But things started to take a turn when little Jeff turned 10. I worried that other kids might tease him or ruin it for him. When asked about the other kids, he shared that his friends didn't believe in Santa because they were Jewish or Hindu or whatever. Little Jeff told me he would ask Santa to get me a new Apple computer, something we couldn't afford. I was touched and knew that my son had a good heart and would likely ask Santa to stop world hunger next. I explained that Santa would only bring presents to children, not parents, and only one gift per child now that he was 10. I felt extremely guilty. I was telling lies upon lies. The following year, my husband and I drove on the 405 to a friend's house for Christmas Day dinner. At Mulholland, little Jeff asked, "Is Santa real?" Jeffrey quickly responded, "Of course he is." My son sought confirmation. "Is Santa real, Mom?" I was a PhD mom. I had researched my child development milestones and knew the average age at which children stopped believing in Santa was 8, not 11. I knew my lying had to stop. My guilt was getting to me, and it was getting harder and harder to keep up the lies. I confessed, "No, Santa's not real, dear." Little Jeff was sitting in the back seat. I looked at him in the rearview mirror and saw little Jeff processing this new information. Little Jeff announced, "That means the Easter Bunny's not real? And the Tooth Fairy isn't real either? They all died in a matter of seconds. It was a massacre on the 405. And worse, I couldn't hug him as we sped down the freeway. I looked over at my husband. Jeffrey looked like someone who'd lost their beloved baby mother. I could see him fighting back a tear. We continued down the 405 in silence. It was 2 hours before we reached our destination at Dana Point. I exited the car wanting to hug and comfort little Jeff. Instead, little Jeff skipped out of the car as if nothing had happened and ran over and hugged and played with our friend's dog. Little Jeff had no emotional scars. Jeffrey and I were the ones feeling lost. I hugged my husband to console him as we accepted the end of the fantasies. Now, fast forward another 20 plus years. Little Jeff is now married to a wonderful woman, Kate. They are perfect together for many reasons, including they both believed in Santa Claus beyond the age of 10. I now watch little Jeff and Kate with our 2-year-old grandson preserving his fantasies, which bring him great joy. Although I vowed never to lie to my child, I now understand how thoughtful lies or fantasies nurture delightful family memories. Jeffrey and I send our grandson Santa presents wrapped in our never-ending smiles. And I'll be the sweet grandmother who comforts my grandson when he turns 11 and his cruel, heartless parents burst his Santa bubble. Besides, it's in my best interest to keep Santa alive. We have lots of leftover Santa paper.